Hello, this is Grant Hughes of Grant Hughes Investigates on YouTube. Please hit that like button right out of the gate. That would be great. We got to get more likes for my videos. I know it's not something you just think about, but if you could do that for me, I would appreciate it. Today's video is regarding the Idaho 4 case and DNA and what was said early on. And also, I wanted to point out something pretty strange. The video footage that we have from right here that shoots down Linda Lane, I was able to find this full segment of hours worth of that on YouTube. And so let's take a look at it. I showed it on my live stream last night, but you guys have to see this. So here it is, right here. It's hours worth. It's 4 hours and 7 minutes. And I was so excited because then I could go verify the time that the white Elantra would drive back and forth in different directions, because we know that at around 3:29 and 46 seconds, it drives by right here, and then it goes back behind 500 Queen Road, and then it comes back out. I think it was something like 3:34 heading east right there on camera, so it should be going to the right. And I was excited to go see all that. But what was interesting is that a lot of the people that have the original footage like this are all pro-burgers. They all think Kohberger's innocent. So miraculously, this one segment is missing. It's absolutely incredible. So let's go. You can see at the bottom of the screen, it's kind of faint. But look how it's, let's see, let me get the time there. 3:29 and 13 seconds. So just look at the bottom of the screen there. And it's kind of faint, but you can see it. It's 3:29:24. And in just about 20 seconds from now, we'll see the white Elantra come in from the right, matching the time that it drives by the A&W and matching the time that it will show up on 1112 King Road camera, and matching the time that it shows up on the Linda Lane 500 Queen Road Linda Lane footage. Again, it's just around the corner from this. So there is the white Elantra right there. And you can see it's 3:29 and 53 seconds. And now we're continuing to go. It first shows up at like 3:29:46, but look at it, it's 3:30 and 3 seconds, 4, and you still see it for a while here. But right when the significant footage would occur, it skips. And I don't know the exact time, but let's just watch it for a moment here. 3:30, and there's even a message that pops up on the screen. Watch this. So 3:30 and 31 seconds, 32, 33. And there it is, look at that. Part from 3:30 to 4:05 are missing. I mean, that's incredible, guys. That cannot be an accident, because it's 3:34 is when you would see it coming back. And then at 4:04 and some odd seconds is when it drives by. So every single bit of the Elantra, as it would be doing its loop, would be proven on this camera, except for the fact that it was deleted. And it's just so ridiculous. It's so obvious that that is not unintentional. It's not some random glitch. You're talking about exactly the 35 minutes or so that Elantra would be on that camera, and then when it leaves, it goes on Elantra Drive going to the west and up and out and to the south and out of the area. So it wouldn't show up on this camera anymore. So the only portions missing from this footage are exactly the important times. We do see it drive by the first time, but without the other times, you can't establish the looping and coming back and forth. It's ridiculous. All right, so let's get to the portion of the video that we were going to be talking about regarding the DNA. So as we know, the white Elantra was driving around right here, and it made its final pass. We've gone over many videos about this. 4:07 and like 40-something seconds right back here, and then it continues and likely parks at 4:08. And then the killer gets out of the vehicle, which would be right here, and goes down the hill there, and goes into the house, and perhaps attacked Xana first, etc., and goes up into Madison Mogen's room after maybe attacking Xana first. We don't know the exact order, but that's what I actually believe, that Xana Kernodle was first, and Ethan Chapin. So after we take a look at that, let's go up the inside the building. I'm going to go, let's get the camera shot here. This is the house, and we're just going to make it all the way up. We're in the living room here. There's Xana Kernodle's room, then back into the living room. Then right there on the left is Dylan Mortenson's room. We're in Dylan Mortenson's room. There's a kitchen straight ahead. We go up the stairs. At the top of the stairs, if you take a right, that would go to Madison Mogen's room. This window right here is the window you can see from the parking area. Here, watch. So in the front of the house, that's this window right here. In fact, you should probably I should probably be able to see the character in the house if I zoom in. There he is right there. So that is the window that you're seeing from the front of the house. See, there's the front door. Let's go back to the camera. And then I first have him go into Kaylee's room and then out. And there's that window again on the left. And then straight ahead is the bathroom. So you can tell then, left of the window from outside, there would be the bathroom window. And that bathroom acts as a sound barrier between Madison Mogen's room and outside. So perhaps that's why the camera at 1112 King Road didn't pick up the audio. And so here's the room. And then we know that right here on the bed, pretty much where this little blood stain is, was a knife sheath that was found. And on that knife sheath was Bryan Kohberger's DNA. Bryan Kohberger drives a white Elantra that was suspect vehicle 1, and that's the vehicle that was just driving around. If we take a look at a map like this, and I put this in, this is the only place that that white Elantra could have been for those 12 minutes. So as it drives off camera right here, it could have stopped right there, but it could have stopped anywhere in here, and then it could have stopped anywhere just before it would be picked up on 1112 King Road camera right there. So it drove, it could be anywhere inside of this, and yet it was there for 12 minutes. And during that 12 minutes is when that knife sheath was left on the bed, and it had Bryan Kohberger's DNA on it. Therefore, the white Elantra that's driving around is his. Okay, circumstantially, that is about as strong as evidence as you could ever imagine, is that a person who owns a white Elantra, missing a front license plate, has a vehicle stopped outside of a homicide residence for 12 minutes, and then inside that residence, a knife sheath with that person's DNA on it is about as strong as evidence as you can possibly come up with that the person driving the Elantra, Bryan Kohberger, is the one who entered the home and killed all 4 of the victims: Madison Mogen, Kaylee Goncalves, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle. All right, now let's take a look at the information surrounding the DNA. Let's just start right here in Madison Mogen's room. And as we read this document, it says, "As I entered this bedroom, I could see 2 females in the single bed in the room. Both Goncalves and Mogen were deceased with visible stab wounds. I also later noticed what appeared to be a tan leather knife sheath laying on the bed next to Mogen's right side when viewed from the door." So it does appear, there's some people think that it wasn't visible, but when you read this, it's interesting because there are 2 different probable cause documents, one by Payne and another officer, and they're very similar, except some of the parts are worded differently. So in this one it says, "I also later noticed what appeared to be a tan leather knife sheath laying on the bed." It doesn't say underneath Madison Mogen, it says next to Mogen's right side when viewed from the door. So I guess if we were to take a look at that, if we back it up a little bit, coming into the room, if you imagine going in and you're standing from the door, it's on her right side, viewed from the door. I mean, I don't know why you need to say viewed from the door, because it's on her right side regardless if it's viewed from the door or not. But the sheath was later processed and had K-Bar, USMC, and the United States Marine Corps Eagle Globe and other insignia stamped on the outside of it. The Idaho State Lab later located a single source of male DNA left on the button snap of the knife sheath. And I think that Kohberger is just absolutely fretting that. He likely cleaned that knife sheath, but he missed a little portion on the snap. And you got to ask yourself, well, why wasn't there any other DNA on the entire knife sheath? And my opinion is, I think it's very possible, leave a comment in the comment of what you think, but I think he might have left it there as a calling card. But there, you could also believe that the knife sheath was accidentally left there in a struggle. Now let's take a look at this. There's a supplemental disclosure regarding DNA tests, and I think this was regarding the probable cause affidavit. It says, "I have been informed by Detective J.R. Talbot of the Idaho State Police that on November 13, 2022, a sheath was recovered at the King Road residence under or next to the body of Madison Mogen. The Idaho State Crime Lab obtained a male DNA suspect profile from the sheath. This is also referred to in Sergeant Blaker's sworn statement, Exhibit A. On December 27, 2022, law enforcement agents in Pennsylvania recovered trash that originated from the Kohberger family residence. That trash was sent to the Idaho State Crime Lab for testing. On December 28, 2022, the Idaho State Lab reported that a DNA profile was obtained from the trash. it was compared to the suspect DNA profile. So that would be the DNA profile that was on the knife sheath. The lab personnel concluded that the source of the trash DNA profile was a male and was not being excluded as the biological father of the source of the suspect profile. At least 99.9998% of the male population would be expected to be excluded from the possibility of being the biological father of the source of the suspect profile. So basically what they're saying is it's almost a certainty that the DNA that was located in the trash is the biological father of the suspect DNA profile. And it turns out that his children are a daughter and a son, and the son is Bryan Kohberger. And obviously we know that when they tested the DNA profile against Bryan Kohberger, it matched perfectly, 100% match, something in the octillion range. This information is being provided to the court pursuant to my duty and obligation to be fully candid with the court. I do not believe this information is exculpatory for the suspect. However, if the court believes it is exculpatory, then the court should consider this supplemental disclosure in its evaluation of the existence of probable cause or lack thereof. But I am specifically asking the court to not consider this supplemental disclosure as evidence supporting the existence of probable cause. The reason for this request is that if the DNA test results are held inadmissible at some point, such a ruling would not impact the finding of probable cause for this warrant, so long as this court is satisfied as to probable cause regardless of the DNA test result. So what they're talking about here is the collecting of the DNA and the trash and determining that this person is the biological father. It turns out that it's correct because when they tested Kohberger again, it matched the sample perfectly. So this document is about the DNA, so I thought it'd be interesting to read the portion at the top that kind of explains it. This is the order addressing IgG DNA and order for in-camera review. On November 13, 2022, 4 University of Idaho students were found murdered. As part of law enforcement investigation into the homicides, the FBI employed the use of investigative genetic genealogy, or IgG, using DNA located on the K-bar knife sheath found at the crime scene. Through the IgG process, the FBI constructed a family tree of individuals whose DNA matched with the DNA found on the knife sheath. The FBI then sent local law enforcement a tip, see that word, tip, to investigate defendant Bryan Kohberger. Kohberger was arrested on December 30th, 2022, and charged with 4 counts of murder in the first degree and 1 count of burglary. Nothing about law enforcement use of IgG was used to obtain the arrest warrant for Kohberger or to obtain the search warrant for his DNA. The state has now filed a motion to prevent the disclosure of the IgG information to the defense. The defense opposes the motion and filed a motion to compel requesting discovery of everything pertaining to the IgG investigation, including the family tree built by the FBI. Disclosure of information gathered from an IgG investigation is an issue of first impression in Idaho. The state claims that the IgG information was not used to obtain any warrant and will not be used at trial. Right. So it wasn't used. It was the trash it led to getting a warrant, but they used IgG to lead to the Kohberger family. Then they collected trash from his trash can. So the lead led to testing the trash, and then that led back to the father of Bryan Kohberger, and then that was enough to get a warrant for... So the IgG isn't technically what was used. It was the DNA found in the trash. And then that led to them getting a warrant to be able to then take a swab from Bryan Kohberger and then compare that to the original DNA sample from the knife sheath. For the reason set forth below, the court finds that the defense is likely entitled to see at least some of the information from the IgG investigation, even if it may ultimately be found to have no relevance to Kohberger's defense. However, because the court has not seen exactly what information pertaining to the use of IgG is available, the court cannot say precisely what should and what should not be disclosed at this time. Because of this uncertainty, the court grants the state request for an in-camera review of IgG information. After such review, the court will enter the appropriate discovery and protective orders. On November 13, 2022, 4 University of Idaho students, Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, were found deceased in Goncalves, Mogen, and Kernodle's off-campus home on King Road in Moscow, Idaho, and that's the 1122 King Road address. The cause of death for each was ruled homicide. While investigating the murder, law enforcement discovered a tan leather knife sheath laying on the bed next to Mogen. The Idaho State Lab later located a single source of male DNA left on the button snap of the knife sheath. Once law enforcement had a single source DNA from the K-bar knife sheath, they conducted what is called a short tandem repeat, or STR analysis. STR DNA analysis involves looking at 20 regions within human DNA. It used to be a smaller set. This is for CODIS, and allows law enforcement to make a direct comparison between 2 STR DNA profiles. Law enforcement submits the STR DNA profile obtained from the K-bar knife sheath to the Combined DNA Index System, or CODIS, a database of STR DNA profiles from convicted offenders, arrestees, and crime scene evidence to identify the source of the DNA. No match was found. Meanwhile, law enforcement continued to investigate the homicide. They conducted a video canvass in the area of the King Road residence. The video canvass revealed a white sedan that piqued the interest of investigators. The video footage was provided to a forensic examiner with the FBI, who initially identified the sedan as a 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra, but later indicated it could also be a 2011 to 2016 Hyundai Elantra. On November 29, 2022, after reviewing video footage and asking law enforcement agencies to be on the lookout for a white Hyundai Elantra in the area, a 2015 white Elantra registered to defendant Bryan Kohberger was located in Pullman, Washington. The state's case alleges that with this information, law enforcement determined that Kohberger's physical description matched that given to investigators by a surviving roommate of the victim, and that's Dylan Mortensen, and that Kohberger's cell phone's travel was consistent with that of the white Elantra in the early morning hours of November 13, 2022. Based on this information, law enforcement believed Kohberger to be the driver of the white Elantra that was seen on video surveillance around the King Road residence at the time of the homicides. Law enforcement also obtained cell phone records indicating that prior to the homicides, Kohberger's cell phone had utilized cellular resources that provided coverage to the area of 1122 King Road on at least 12 occasions prior to November 13th. That's absolutely true. On November 27, 2022, Pennsylvania agents recovered the trash from Kohberger's family residence located in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. That evidence was sent to the state lab for testing. On December 28, 2022, the Idaho State Lab reported that a DNA profile obtained from the trash and the DNA profile obtained from the sheath identified a male as not being excluded as the biological father of suspect profile. On December 30th, 2022, Kohberger was arrested and charged with 4 counts of murder in the first degree and 1 count of burglary. A search warrant for Kohberger's DNA was issued on January 5th, 2023, which means they can take a swab from him. A traditional STR DNA comparison was done between the STR profile found on the K-bar knife sheath and the defendant's DNA. The comparison showed a statistical match. Specifically, the STR profile is at least 5.37 octillion times more likely to be seen if defendant is the source than if an unrelated individual randomly selected from the general population is the source. So there you go. I mean, it's like a 1-to-1 match, and that kind of explains to you how it came about. Now, one question that you might want to ask is, why weren't they able to find Kohberger's DNA in the trash can? And here's the answer, apparently. Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger was busted in PJs stuffing trash in Ziploc bags, prosecutor says. When a tactical team burst into the Kohberger residence in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania last year, police allegedly found Idaho student murder suspect Bryan Kohberger with gloves on, stuffing his trash into Ziploc bags, according to a local prosecutor. Investigators also noted in recently unsealed search warrants that they took a pair of Ziploc bags from Kohberger's car the same night. One had a pink zipper, the other was green. Court documents did not specify what police found inside either. Pennsylvania State Police and the FBI raided his parents' home in the Pocono Mountains in the early hours of December 30th, seizing numerous articles of dark clothing, several knives, a gun, and a Hyundai Elantra after they tracked him there from Washington State University. Kohberger was a criminology PhD student in Washington, just a few miles away from where Kohberger alleged he killed 4 University of Idaho undergrads, some of them as they slept, around 4 a.m. on November 13th. Well, we know it's between 4:08 and 4:20. Kohberger had a master's degree in criminal justice from DeSales University and was supposed to have been a standout student. And he likely waived his extradition to Idaho out of curiosity about how police there established probable cause. Monroe County, Pennsylvania First Assistant District Attorney Michael Mancuso said during a news briefing after the arrest, Kohberger was found awake in the kitchen area, dressed in shorts and a shirt, wearing latex medical-type gloves, and apparently was taking his personal trash and putting it into separate Ziploc baggies, Mancuso would tell the Poconos BRC 13 news station. Now, when you click on this link, it doesn't go to that article anymore, so I don't know if they were asked to take it down, but the information spread out quickly, or maybe that's just not there anymore. He did not immediately return messages from Fox News Digital on Wednesday. Now Kohberger is an inmate at the Latah County Jail in Moscow, around the corner from the crime scene. Days before the raid, police found a familial DNA sample in the Kohberger trash bin that matched evidence collected from the snap of a K-bar knife sheath found next to one of the Idaho victims, Madison Mogen, and it was next to her right side. They did not find a direct match, however, but that likely changed after they took DNA samples directly from the suspect upon his arrest. Exactly. So after they arrested him, they got a search warrant for his DNA, which means they were able to legally take a swab, compel him to for a swab, and they got it. They compared it. They actually used CODIS again and compared his DNA to the unknown sample from the knife sheath, and it was a match. That's where we got that. It was, I think it was 5.6 octillion to 1 that it's his DNA over somebody else. That means there's only one chance in 5.3 or 5.6 octillion to 1 that it's not his. Okay, so that basically virtually means it's his, because the Earth only has 8 billion people on it, and a billion is totally, I think octillion has 24 zeros on it. A billion has 9. I mean, this is like, you'd have to find another, trillions and trillions, or, septillion planet Earths out there to have a shot. All right, well, I hope you guys found it interesting, and you can see how the prosecution actually said do not use the genetic genealogy as part of your probable cause determination. And so I think that sort of takes it out of the realm of what Ann Taylor's trying to do. She keeps trying to make it seem like the DNA, without that, the judge would have came up with a different decision, but they intentionally wrote in there, do not use the genetic genealogy as part of the probable cause determination early on. All right. So thank you all very much for watching. Leave a comment in the comment section of what you thought about various portions of this video. Just comment throughout, and I would appreciate it. Hit that like button, share the video, and subscribe to my channel if you like my content. My channel is fact-based, based on the information that's actually out there. I don't try to pretend that there's somebody else that's the actual killer when there's no evidence whatsoever that anybody else was involved in the murders other than Bryan Kohberger at this point. Now, someday, if somebody literally comes forward and says, I was there with him, but we know this for sure, is that a white Elantra was driving around. Bryan Kohberger's DNA was found inside the house. The white Elantra literally parked its vehicle from 4:08 and then drove away at a high rate of speed at 4:20. So inside of that 12 minutes, that knife sheath was left on the bed next to Madison Mogen, and it had Bryan Kohberger's DNA on it. Therefore, the white Elantra that was driving around circumstantially is absolutely Bryan Kohberger's white Elantra, and he is the killer. Bryan Kohberger also has no alibi for what he was doing that night, other than, yes, I was driving around, and we've just learned that Bryan Kohberger's vehicle was spotted at about 3:29, verified spotting at 3:29, on its way to the house for the first time. And Taylor verified that. All right, everybody, thanks again for watching. And as I always say, until next time, be safe out there.